You are listening to ESG News and Views from the Conference Board. ESG News and Views is the Conference Board ESG Center's podcast channel, providing compelling, in-depth interviews with ESG influencers and timely updates on hot-button environmental, social, and governance topics. Listen in to stay in the loop with current happenings and learn best practices in sustainability, corporate citizenship, and governance.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. This is the inaugural edition of the ESG News and Views podcast. This is a new product from the ESG Center at the Conference Board. We're very happy to have you listening in. I'm delighted to be joined today by Elizabeth Roscoe, who is the Executive Director of the Western Union Foundation and also Head of Brand and Purpose. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us an introduction.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction, and great to be on the inaugural podcast. As you've just said, Elizabeth Roscoe, I am a Brit living in the United States. I've been with Western Union almost 7 years and have a long career history, both in brand and in the purpose that defines companies. What I've been finding in my career is that companies are increasingly integrating purpose into their business strategy. And I'm delighted that the role I have at Western Union today combines both our brand direction and how we share with our key stakeholders the direction of our company, and has a very strong purpose lens to our work. And has, as a result of that, my work as the Executive Director of the Western Union Foundation is a key fit to our business strategy.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And as you say, you're a Brit living in America. I won't embarrass you. Well, maybe I will, Elizabeth. I'll embarrass you because I don't want everyone else to think that I am too a Brit living in America. You called me a Brit just before. I'm actually Australian. So let's make one thing absolutely clear here for everyone else. But thank you for that introduction. Elizabeth, tell us a little bit more about Western Union as a company. I'm just interested to know the size of it and your sort of global reach, because it's a unique business. How many employees do you have, and where are they situated around the world?
Yeah, it's a great question to answer, because Western Union is truly one of the most global companies in the world. Western Union's over 168 years old. We have a strong history of innovation, and our values are based on being globally minded. The business itself, we're a leader in cross-border, cross-currency money movement and payments. We work in over 200 countries and territories around the world, and we have employees in offices in many countries around the world. What's great is both our business and our purpose, therefore, has a really, truly global reach.
Yep. Very interesting. And so I understand, now correct me if I have this wrong, but your commitment is education for better. Is that a corporate commitment or a foundation commitment?
Yeah, so actually it's all about the work of our foundation.
Okay.
The foundation itself has been around for about 20 years. We're really proud that in that time we have invested over $120 million in 137 countries. And that's looking at communities where our customers and our employees live and work. And the mission of the foundation really is through education to support the communities that Western Union serves. The commitment you just mentioned, Education for Better, is the work that we've been focused on for the last 5 years. And the reason we're excited to talk about it now is because that commitment is coming to a close. We're really delighted to share that we gave ourselves a commitment, a public commitment, that we launched at the Clinton Global Initiative back in 2015, that we wanted to make a meaningful impact to the lives of around 50,000 young people by helping them connect to the global economy. And we wanted to do that through education, workforce training and scholarships. As of today, we've helped over 75 youths by being able to fundraise from our company and our partners more dollars than we expected. And we've made a meaningful difference to the lives of around 75,000 youths. And so we're really excited to announce the close or successful achievement of Education for Better and start to look forward to 2020 beyond and think about our next commitment.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's just dive straight into that and talk about the foundation going forward. What is the focus for the next 5 years or so? What will you be looking at? How are you going to change your commitment going forward?
So as I just mentioned, Education for Better has been a commitment focused on helping young people connect to the global economy. As with my role, spanning both the purpose of our company and the mission of our foundation, we've looked at our company to understand the work that we do. And I think that the uniqueness of the business is all around being able to connect people across borders and thinking about that cross-border movement. And so our new commitment is opportunity beyond borders. We want to focus on empowering forcibly displaced youth and marginalised youth to succeed in today and tomorrow's technology-driven global economy. So we're really seeing that these vulnerable populations who have been forced to cross borders aren't getting access to the kinds of education and training that are giving them the same access, the same fair shot even at integration into the mainstream economy. And so we're collaborating with NGOs across all 5 continents to reach those young people and help them get the skills in technology and entrepreneurship that was going to help them to thrive in those jobs of the future, as well as providing those critical supports like counselling, career guidance, language skills, scholarships, support for their families. So we're excited that this new commitment, Opportunity Beyond Borders, will be a $15 million investment between 2020 and 2022.
Excellent. It's a commitment that sort of it jumps out at me immediately as something that Western Union is really well positioned to tackle. I just want to know a little bit more about the process of coming up with that commitment and the goal of $15 million by 2022. Could you explain the process of developing that? Who else within both the foundation and perhaps the company, if they were involved, who were involved in the strategy development?
Do you know, it's really nice to be asked that question. I think it's not very often that a foundation is asked to take a step back and explain its strategy and how it's connected the dots with some of the big social challenges in the world, with the key interests of its main donors to create a strategy that we hope will actually start to move the needle in some of the world's most pressing challenges. And that's where we start. We start with looking at the global challenges. You know, what we're seeing is an increase in migration. With around 68 million people forcibly displaced, around 22 million of those refugees. We're seeing a real dichotomy in social mobility. You know, today we see a growing middle class, and for the first time ever, more than half the population in the world is starting to move into the middle class. But there are still over 260 million people who don't have access to quality education, or to the ability to climb up into the middle classes. We're seeing a change in technology. You know, technically 50% of the world's jobs today are automatable and can replace people with AI. So in that backdrop, we've started to say, this is the challenges our business is facing. This is the challenges that the communities that our customers live and work in are facing. And so that's where we started. How we've tried to connect that is, where can our business assets make a difference? You know, the great thing about running a global foundation that is connected to a Fortune 500 company is we have employees and assets around the globe that we can mobilize to actually start to make a difference. A great example is we've unlocked the ability for our customers to donate to our foundation when they're in our app using our product. When they're building loyalty points, they can donate them to one of the causes we support. So we've engaged, you know, different levers in the business to try and make a difference. And so that's kind of where the strategy starts. How we came up with the idea of Opportunity Beyond Borders. Actually, that name was part of a crowdsourcing challenge for our employee base. Globally, we reached out and said, you understand our work deeply. What should we call this? Where should we focus? And then actually working with our leadership team to put the dollars behind the commitment and create the network of grassroots organisations who are doing the work to actually help move the needle for young people, and connect it back to our company by offering internships for our scholars and other young people who have come through organisations like Breaking Barriers, a refugee organisation in London, which helps young people get into employment. And we've hired some of those young people in our office in the UK.
Great. Thanks for explaining that, Elizabeth. It's really interesting. I want to just 2 points of clarification before we go on. When the $15 million commitment, you mentioned that customers and employees can donate through the app as well. Does that $15 million include donations from those stakeholders, or is that purely a foundational commitment?
So the bulk of that 15 million is really delivered by Western Union. The company and our CEO and our leadership team are the biggest supporters of our mission. So that excludes any money that we raise from our customers. Our hope is that anything additional that we raise from members of the public, from customers and consumers is something we can start to build on. And that's part of the reason we were able to over-deliver on the Education for Better initiative that was our last 5-year commitment, because we actually were able to deliver more funds. The piece that $15 million does include, and I'm really proud of this, is our business partners. So we reach out to our vendors and our agents, and Western Union is an agent business model. We have, I think, more locations around the globe than McDonald's and Starbucks, and each of those agents has had the opportunity to contribute to the Foundation's work and are an incredibly important part of that mission and that $15 million.
Excellent. That's interesting. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to just jump forward ever so slightly. So, not to throw you under the bus here, Elizabeth, but you mentioned employees being involved in the naming of the opportunity beyond borders. I think that's really interesting. It's a great way to engage employees. I wanted to know what you're doing further now that the commitment has been launched and the strategies in operation. How else will you be involving employees in opportunity beyond borders? Are there volunteer opportunities and things like that?
Yeah, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk about how engaged Western Union employees are in both, our company purpose around supporting and lifting up communities around the world and our specific Opportunity Beyond Borders commitment. I said this many times, but we know that the Western Union Foundation couldn't be as ambitious or even as effective as it is today if our global workforce didn't really share that passion for making a difference that we do. And we have some amazing examples of individuals. I'll give you a couple of examples of how we're engaging employees in growing our efforts. First of all, we ask employees to donate to the Western Union Foundation. And the average, for company giving, is around 30%. Last year, Western Union had over 84% of our global employee base contributing directly to our funding, which we're really proud of. In addition, we hosted and asked employees to host volunteering events around the world, and we had over 15,000 hours of volunteering time. So our strategy is, we know that we can be more effective and have a better global reach if we engage our employee base. And we know that a foundation based at our headquarters here in Colorado cannot deliver that single-handedly. So we ask our employees to deeply understand and get involved in our mission and tell us how and where they can get involved in that, through volunteering, through giving their time, through even giving their talents. A couple of great examples we have today are our legal team have established a pro bono program. We know there are many refugee detention centres, even here in Colorado, and our legal team are offering free hours of advice and support to new refugees moving to the United States to help them understand the paperwork to get asylum seeker status. And so that kind of going above and beyond and saying, my skill set can be used in a different way, and I'm going to go and establish that, is really a big part of the culture here at Western Union and how we're engaging employees in our commitment now and as we look forward.
Yeah, pro bono is just growing so quickly. It's a really interesting and useful strategy that a lot of companies are using for not only volunteer engagement but employee development as well. So it's great with a company with such a global reach like yours to be seeing employees working in that area too. So that's great. I want to talk a little bit about the investments that you're planning to make with the $15 million, maybe discussing some of the nonprofits that you're supporting or some of the partners that you'll work with. Can you explain a little bit more about those investments and who you'll be working with to achieve your goal? And perhaps also just share with us any challenges that you have with such a global reach, making investments internationally as well. That would be great.
Absolutely. It's a big responsibility to try and invest in projects around the globe to make a difference to young people's lives and give them the opportunity to access the mainstream economy, that many of us take for granted. And what we're really proud of is the relationships that we have built with NGOs. And I don't mind saying at all that it is the non-profits, the grassroots organisations that we fund and partner with and engage our employees with who are doing the work. So we take that responsibility of finding collaborations very seriously. One of the things we're doing and launching this October with our new Opportunity Beyond Borders commitment is essentially opening our grant making up to non-profits as an invitation to say, we've explained to you what this programme is, and we're asking if you're an NGO doing similar work to send us your proposal. We're giving up to $1 million that we're setting aside for non-profits who are coming and telling us, this is the project I'm doing, it fits your work, and I think there's a good connection here. So we don't want to call that a competition, but that idea of putting aside $1 million for new non-profits that we haven't found yet and discovered yet, that's something we're really excited about doing. And then we're using our global leadership and employee base and our partners around the globe to help understand which non-profit partners we should work with. We found some really incredible organisations, and I'll talk about just a couple of them. One is Recoded. They help refugees who've moved from places like Syria and come into Turkey to integrate into local communities. They help them with language skills and community integration. They also help those who are interested go through essentially a 6-month boot camp to learn Android coding skills and come out with a certification that you can use to go be a software engineer. So people like Recoded are not just helping people immediately settle or get some skills. They are providing certification that employers can look at and say, I can see and understand you've got the skills to meet my needs. And a lot of the work we do is about understanding that skills gap between what employers want and need and what people who've been displaced can provide, and trying to close those gaps. We work with another organisation called Kiron, who provides online training courses for refugees. And even big, well-known established non-profits that we work with, like Save the Children, have specific programmes like their Skills to Succeed programme, which are all about providing the extra support, the extra push for young people who haven't had the same opportunity for education, for skills training, to bridge that gap into employment. The final one I mentioned is someone called Upwardly Global, an amazing organisation who takes that even to the next level. They help refugees to do everything from writing their resumes, having practice interviews with companies like Western Union, to really to go the extra mile to get people into the workplace. And I think that's the most powerful thing that we can do, is help young people to get into work and be self-sufficient and lift themselves, their families and their communities out of hardship, and integrate into a new community and essentially become a thriving part of their local community, with the hope, of course, that one day they'll be able to go back home.
Great. Elizabeth, time flies when you're having fun. We're already sort of coming towards the end of our 20 minutes, but I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about the joint research project that you're conducting with the Centre for Global Development and Refugees International. It's in partnership with the IKEA Foundation and Tent Partnership for Refugees. It's always interesting to hear about collaborative projects like this. Tell us a little bit about the research. What does it seek to achieve, and perhaps about the partnership with IKEA, with the IKEA Foundation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've had a long partnership with Tent, the Tent organisation, who've been a real driver in spearheading the connection between refugees and business, and getting companies to sign up to hiring refugees. So we're really impressed by their work and have been partners with them since their inception. And similarly, IKEA has made great strides in the same area. So I think we're excited that the three organisations are partnering with the Centre for Global Development. This is a 30-month research project, and the aim is to do a multi-country study to understand how to get refugees to have formal labour market access. There are very few countries where refugees have the right to live and work. I was recently in Uganda with the Whitaker Peace and Development Initiative, and that's one of the few countries which, as you enter the country, you have a work permit, and so they're doing some research to understand how to provide more access to the formal labour market, with the intent over those 30 months of providing policy change recommendations for the 5 or 6 key countries in the study to help that integration process, to essentially the outcome being, how do we stop refugees being in separate camps, not in urban areas, where people are living in camps for, an average of 17 years. You have been lifted out of your life, you've been lifted out of education, and you've been lifted out of opportunity for that time. And your generation is lost, at that point. The next generation is the one that has the opportunity to come back and integrate. So if we can curtail that, if we can avoid that from happening, I think we've started to make a difference. So I'm really excited about the work that the centre is doing and about the research that we're jointly funding. And we really hope that some key policy changes will be the outcome that come out of that has a real world impact. So we're excited to see that study as it starts this quarter and progresses over the next 30 months.
Great. Let's finish off with just checking ourselves and looking ahead. What do you think are going to be the primary challenges of reaching the new goal and fulfilling the strategy?
Sure. I think we're really excited about the opportunity to put our stake in the ground, to make a public commitment, and to stand by that. One of the challenges for me are more the challenges in society. We're still seeing this increase in migration. We're still seeing, and it's something we haven't even touched on, we're still seeing a lack of gender equality. And a lot of our work is focused on women. 75% of our scholarship recipients are girls and young women. We're still seeing the frequency and severity of natural disasters becoming a key reason for forced migration. And that's another strand of our programme which we support. So I think that the real world challenges are something that we try to address, and we know that a non-profit can't do that alone. That's why I'm excited about being part of Western Union. That collaboration between government, business, non-profit, I think that gives the opportunity to make a difference, because no one party can do it alone. And we are in an era where protectionism and nationalism is strong, and reaching out across borders is more difficult. So I think for me, those are the challenges that we're seeing in society, and we're ready to face those head on and reach beyond national borders, reach beyond the work a non-profit can do, and try to collaborate with business and with other partners so that together we can start to make this difference. That's what I'm excited about. That's where I see the challenge, but I also see the huge opportunity that if that starts to be successful, it can start to create.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me. I must say it's been really interesting to hear from a representative from a truly global organization, but one that also makes connections between countries so manageable. And it's great to hear how a company like that is using its social investments to help society and other countries, developing countries, as well as engaging employees and things like that. So thank you for joining me. Thank you to the audience for joining us as well. Again, this has been the inaugural edition of the ESG News and Views podcast. If you like this, please feel free to visit the Conference Board website. It's www.conference-board.org. We have a range of different products like these, including podcasts from our different centres, the Human Capital Centre, as well as the Economy, Strategy and Finance Centre and the Marketing and Communications Centre. We also, of course, do research, so there's plenty of research available for you to download if you're a member of the Conference Board, and some insights available to non-members as well. And, of course, our webcasts, which our friends here at the digital media team that have helped us put this podcast together take control of and deliver seamlessly. So thank you all again for joining us. We also have a range of other podcasts available on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So please feel free to look up the Conference Board and download any of those podcasts there. Otherwise, we hope you'll join us again for a future episode of ESG News and Views. Thanks, everyone.
This has been ESG News and Views from the Conference Board.